What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. We're back out here in the garage with the SRT4. Today we are going to be replacing the timing belt, the water pump, the fourth mount, and the trans mount.
My name is Zach Ellis and welcome to my journey. I don't know where I'm going or how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to be tearing shit up every step of the way. Along with a few friends, of course. Honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll be building, modifying, repairing, fabricating, and racing every chance I get. But if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and of course, enjoy the video.
Alright, so I came out here yesterday and as you can see I got a lot of the stuff taken off the car already. I'll go ahead and show you everything that you're going to have to remove in order to get into the timing belt. Well, if you're just on the timing belt, it's much simpler. If you're doing the timing belt and the water pump, you want to make sure there's a little more room in there just to kind of help you ensure everything is installed correctly. You're not going to have like a water leak after you finish installing everything, which would be terrible. So I'll go ahead, show you all the stuff I removed. I'll show you all the stuff that I've got to replace the timing belt and all that crap, and then we'll jump right back into it. So here's a pile of everything I had to remove. First thing is the H-brace. You don't have this, you don't have to remove it. I have traction bars also, which are down in there. I just flipped them around backwards. I removed the cold air intake, the filters in my truck. I cleaned it last night. Battery tray. I removed the headlight because my intake is in the front wheel well or front bumper. Upper hard pipe, I guess it's called. My catch can, just to make sure I don't break it. I don't want to bend them out. The radiator support brackets on the top, I had to remove those because I have to lift my radiator up to get the H-brace out. My strut tower bar and my splitter that I just made. If you didn't see that video, go check it out. It's my last video I posted. And then over here on the car, I removed the upper coolant hose. I did that because if you're doing the water pump, you've got to drain the coolant. So upper hose is pulled off. I drained all the coolant out of the system. I also disconnected the exhaust, which you can see the V-band clamp right there. So I went to sptuning.com, I believe is the website, and I got their Gates, I guess it's Gates Power Grip kit. So it's a whole kit with the tensioner, the timing belt, the water pump, the idler pulley, and the water pump gasket. And I have a Torque Solutions trans mount. And then I can't remember what brand the fourth mount is. I got it off a guy who installed it and then crashed his car like 6 months later. So yeah, the timing belt is a Gates T265. I don't know if that's any good or not, but either way, I got it. It's going to be better than I'm assuming the stock one that's in there. The car has 85,000 miles on it. So was it replaced previously? I'm gonna guess and say no. The car, I got it with 60,000 miles on it. I'm assuming it wasn't replaced. I'm not sure what the service interval is on a timing belt on one of these cars, but either way, hopefully it's the OG one, so I'm not wasting an F ton of work right now. So we're gonna go ahead and hop right into it. All right guys, a little update on where we're at right now with the car. Passenger side, I went ahead, I removed the bolt holding the trans mount to the car. Driver's side, I removed the upper motor mount, the lower motor mount bolt there, so I pulled that out, and then the mount for the fourth mount. So now the engine and trans are both supported by two jacks. I got a block of wood on that side under the oil pan. This side is just on some of the bolts. This is definitely not the preferred method using the jacks. Maneuverability is not very good with the jacks, and you're putting a lot of weight on a central location, which is why I put the block of wood under the oil pan. All the bolts are out. The engine is completely floating right now. I am still using this support bar at the top. I have it chained up to here still. I moved it over because that's the direction the trans is going to go. And then I added this chain here to try and prevent it from rotating forward at all. I'm gonna go ahead, lower both jacks down slowly, and then walk the motor over, 3 inches, 4 inches, whatever I have there, and then we'll start on the timing belt and water pump. We've got the motor drop down 1.5 inches or so on this side, and then on this side we gotta drop down far enough to where the 3 trans mount bolts, 1, 2, and 3. So I'm gonna remove the trans mount bolts on this side. That way I can slide the whole trans over.
All right, so we got the belt completely installed. As you see here, the gears are in a line, and then down at the bottom, see if I can get it in there, the yellow mark is in line with the triangle on the block. So you see the little triangle there and the yellow mark, they are right in line, which means that, which means the belt is officially in. Everything is torqued down properly. The new tensioner is installed, the new idler pulley is installed, the new water pump is installed. So everything is now installed as far as components. So now what we have to do is I have to put the lower cover back on. Once the lower cover's on, I can then reinstall the crank pulley. Once the crank pulley's on, I can then start working on putting the big bracket on the side of the engine back on. Once I get everything on the engine finished, I'm then going to put in the new 4th mount, and then we'll start going backwards through all the steps. One thing to mention, the bottom of this metal bracket where the 4th mount bolts up to, it has 2 ears on it. You just want to go ahead and grind them off. I did it with a cutoff wheel because I couldn't find my tool for my grinder. Looks a little ugly, but it's not going to ruin your motor mount unless you're using a stock motor mount. If you're using a stock one, then you're going to want to leave that.
Alright guys, so we got everything finally completely reassembled. The project is for the most part done. I haven't put the battery back in. I haven't put the axles back in. I haven't put any coolant in there yet. And the reason for all that is because I'm going to replace my axles, well, my front left one, not because it's broken, but because I haven't changed it in 2 years. So I'm just going to get ahead of it, change it now. The coolant I'm leaving out because I think I'm going to remove the thermostat housing and the intake manifold and powder coat them in the next week or two. But with all that being said, the project overall, not very hard to do. It's a little time consuming, especially if you're doing the way I did with removing pretty much the engine and trans completely. It was all super simple though. The hardest part I think of the whole ordeal was getting the engine and trans back into place to get the hardware in. Just with 2 jacks battling it, a little difficult. If you had a engine hoist, it would make things a little bit easier, but I think it's probably marginally. Either way, it's not going to be super simple. And then the only other tip I have for you is definitely make sure your car is in time. You know, you can leave the cam gear off one tooth. It's not really going to hurt anything, but performance. So while you're in there, just make sure you do it correctly. Make sure everything is torqued down. It's not loose in there. The last thing you want is that belt to be loose and it fly out. It's like 5 bolts in there, so there's no reason to cut any corners in there. But I think I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm not going to bore you with putting the intake and all that crap back on. Hopefully you guys like the content. If you have any tips for me, leave it in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.